In the last class, what we had discussed was we created a separate database project with books. Okay, and what I did was first I created a POCO, plain old C# object, and followed by which I created a data access object. Okay, this is what we had done in the last class. And in this program, I have not looked at only one technology like connected and disconnected. Rather, I combine both where they are best used. Okay, so one is connected is only good when you have transactions involved and you want live data and you want to do something which is real time. Then we use connected architecture. Disconnected architecture, which is a specialty of .NET, only exists when you have to handle numerous or huge amount of data which is not going to change rapidly, which is going to be stagnant data. Okay, which is going to be like some data which is not going to be fetched every now and then. Rather, the data is not going to change at all for a significant amount of time. We'll keep like that. Okay, so in other words, best to retrieve stagnant data. Okay, same, you should not think that it is good for retrieving data. It's not like that. Retrieving data which is not going to be changed dynamically. That's what we can understand disconnected architecture. Now, if you ask me what is the advantage and why should we even consider this, there are scenarios. Okay, there are lots of scenarios in which data is being accessed at the same time, which is not live. Okay, now you cannot take booking as example. Booking requires connected architecture because it's live and n number of people are accessing the same data. But for example, ticket status. Okay, so imagine if 200 seats are remaining and you are all trying to access. I need to show real data of how many seats are remaining, not at 10 o'clock what seats were remaining, which we will all think that 200 seats are still there because it will still show that data only. That's not what we are looking for. Okay, so we are looking for something which is like, for example, result. That's the best example right now I can give so that we understand. Maybe in real world we'll have more examples for that. Okay, for example, 10th result, plus 2 result, or your degree results. The results, once they've been announced, okay, will not change for a considerable amount of time. Okay, so for example, I put one person's register number and see the result. The same person, all my relatives are sitting and checking my register number. Okay, I need not retrieve their record again. Once if I take all their records, like for example, let's say 1 million students have taken 10th exam and I'm taking their record and storing it in XML instead of storing it in the database directly. Okay, so imagine, just think, 1 million people are trying to access the results. Data is same. Okay, every time you try to access, for example, N1, N2, N3, number of people try to access, I have to open the database, same connection code. I have to use the database connection code and establish connection and log in and then check. All these things should happen, which means you have to go to the server, not just go into the server, go to the database server, fetch the results and then display it to him. Second person comes or he refreshes, again I have to do the same thing. I hope you follow. Okay, so whatever happens with that, then what happens, not one connection. Database will have n number of connections simultaneously to this one data source, which is going to be very difficult if multiple people are accessing at the same time. And the data is not dynamic. It's not going to change immediately. I hope you follow. Right, so in that case, what should I use? Disconnected would work perfectly. Okay, because if even million people access that thing at the same time, there will not be any lag. You would have come across that, right? When you're trying to access at the same time, all of us are trying to access, the server will be down. The reason is not because the server cannot fetch a HTML file and give it to you. If it is HTML, it will work. If it's just a HTML page and million people are accessing at the same time, it will still work. Why? Because it is just HTML. Nothing to do. It's only two-tier. Client, request, server, respond. Done. But when it comes to databases, it's not the case. Okay, so this one, data set gives you, or disconnected architecture, gives you one more advantage, saying that if it is a stagnant data, do not go to the server every time. Fetch the data, put it in data set. What is data set? XML. And if it is XML, you need not go back to the database server, just hit the client, the server, and the client will get the response. Instead of HTML, I'm responding with XML. Is there any difference for the browser? No. I hope you follow. Okay, browser, it's both are markup languages, both are text. But if it is a database, it is not text. It is a server. You will have to open it, get the data, whatever data it is. It might be blob also. You will have to get all those data and then come back again. Even if you are only retrieving select star from table where ID equal to something. That you are passing. You are passing your ID. The same time, n number of people are passing their IDs. I hope you follow. Alright, in that case, it becomes a little bit more difficult if it is n number of people accessing at the same time. For that, data set can be used. For everything else, connected architecture. I hope you follow, right? So what is the difference between ASP.NET and other technologies? Other technologies do not have a choice of disconnected architecture. Everything is connected. What we have discussed with JDBC. There is no concept called disconnected. Even if you want to retrieve, you'll have to go through same result set only. While rs.next, you will have to keep on opening the connection, establishing the connection using the driver, and then open the result set, fill the result set, and then while rs.next fetch the record. It doesn't matter whether the data is stagnant or whether the data is dynamic. It doesn't matter for JDBC. In .NET, you have a difference. That's all. I hope this is clear. Okay. So what I did in the last class was how you are supposed to do a professional program. Previous to that, I did 2 more programs in which we had used connected architecture, disconnected architecture. That was not professional. That was only for educational purposes. What I did was I wrote the connection code in every block. That's wrong. You're not supposed to do that. You cannot repeat code. Redundancy is highly dangerous in coding. So what we do is here, what we did was we created just something like how we did in the last class of JDBC. We created a separate POJO, and then we created something called adapter or database object, a DBO, DAO, I don't know what I named that time. Okay, so that was created, and all code was written with respect to database in one place. What we did in our program, we accessed it. Same thing I started, but I did not complete it. Let me complete it in this class. So you see here, I have created a book as a plain old C# object. But the syntax of C# and Java is very much different when you see the code here. Okay, the same code in Java would look something like, I'll write class book, it will be same. Inside that, I'll be creating 4 variables, just variables. Int book ID, string book name, string book author, int book year. Only this much I'll write, and then I'll right click and say generate constructor, empty constructor, with all these details constructor, and also we will give something called getters and setters for all these 4 things. So it will be get will be one method, set will be one method. 2 methods for one data type, and it will go on like that. It will be a huge line of code. Even though we are not writing, we will be writing only 4 lines, but remaining will be generated. Here also we are writing 4 lines, but in that 4 lines everything is done. Okay, for example, int book ID, this open and close bracket has a simple property called get set. Okay, which has getter methods as well as setter methods inbuilt. This is called a property. Okay, if you remember how I created this was I just used the word prop. That's a what do you call a template, a code template. Okay, so if I just type the word prop and press tab twice, it will get something like this. Okay, please note where what is highlighted right now is what you are supposed to change. So I can change it to, let's say, string. And then if I press tab once again, it will take you to the next column which you are supposed to change. Property name. Whatever name you want to give it there. That's it. So this is how I created the remaining 4. Basically what I have done here is, I have made sure that 4 getters and setters for all the 4 columns which are there in the database has been created here. That's all I did in one file. In the next file, what we did was data access object. Okay, a separate class was created, a C# class. Inside that, globally we have created 2 objects, con, command. Connection is globally required because all operations require connection, and command is also required to execute the command what you want to do. SQL, maybe insert, select or update, whatever it is. Okay, so we'll take that also. So we have done that, and in the constructor of this class, I'm repeating, in the constructor of that class, what do you mean by that? As long as you create an object, as soon as you create an object of this particular class, I will write or call these 2 lines of code. Why? Because every time I try to access this file, I'm about to do a database operation. So as soon as I start the database operation, I need to open the connection. That 2 lines I will not be explicitly calling. I hope you got what I meant. Okay, which means I'm not going to sit and call con.open. As soon as I create an object of this particular class called books DAO, connection will be open. Alright, and after that we have written some methods, starting with retrieving all the books. For that I have used, please note, a separate data classes. One is data adapter, another one is data set. We have used this separately. Why? Because remaining everywhere I have used SQL command, which is part of connected architecture. Where I will, here I am using disconnected architecture just for retrieval, because it's not live data. Books data is not going to be like updated every second. because once in a while we'll be buying a book and we'll adding it. So I'm just assuming that it is not going to be a live data, it's a stagnant data. So I'm putting it as disconnected architecture. Okay, so here adapter, I need to pass two parameters. One, what to execute, where to execute. What to execute is the command. Next one is where to execute. Okay, please note, even though I have written it in separate files, I have never left SQL out. SQL is still the same. It doesn't matter which programming language you are using. The same code I would have written in also in Java. It doesn't matter. Okay, but there is a difference which is coming into .NET from the next chapter what we are going to discuss, which is language integrated query. From that we will not write SQL. I hope you follow. We will move from SQL into only programming, but we will be doing database operations. We have already discussed this, and if has anybody studied J2EE? No, right? I think you all got one subject. We didn't have J2EE in the sense Spring, Struts, Hibernate was not there. Okay, cool. So we will be seeing something like that. Okay, we will be seeing like Hibernate. How in Hibernate is there in Java. We'll be having frameworks here in .NET, which will allow you not to write SQL code, but just write everything in C# and it'll talk to database using SQL. Okay, which means I need not learn SQL. I just need to learn the programming language properly, and I can talk to databases without any problem. That's what is our next topic. But before that, let's understand how this works. Then we'll go to the next topic. Okay, so here the same logic is applied for SQL command also. What command to execute, where to execute. Okay, so where to execute, this con is available globally everywhere, and it is instantiated as soon as you call this particular class. I hope you get the flow. I'm not calling it explicitly. This will be called automatically when you create an object, and I cannot access this method without creating an object of this class. I hope this is object-oriented programming, you're aware of it, right? So let me move on. And here I'm returning a data set, which means if you call getAllBooks method, I'll return a data set back to you. That's it. Okay. Following which I've written three methods. You can see the three methods, all the three look the same. Only one difference, query. Alright. Look at the methods also. All the three methods return true or false. That I have made, but the method does not return true or false. The method which you have written there, execute non-query, returns a number. I have made it into Boolean, so that it's easy for us to understand yes or no. No other answer is there. Inserted, yes, no. Updated, yes or no. Deleted, yes or no. That's all I want to know. Okay, so in that case, you see all the three have command. CMD is equal to new SQL command. Three parameters are passed. Insert, one, here update, the last one is delete. Query remains the same. Okay, please look at the query. All the queries where I've written in C# and Java will look the same. Will look, it is looking the same, right? Single quote, double quote, single quote, plus. Everything is same as Java, because C# also uses concatenation operator as plus. It looks exactly the same. Now, what am I passing? Okay, please look at that. What am I passing to that particular method? For adding and updating, I'm passing only one thing. Same thing I'm passing. What am I passing? An object, an instance of a class. Okay, what is that equal to in our database? One row. Okay, this is the formula I want you to remember. Let it etch in your minds. Okay, an instance of a class is equal to one row in a table. Please remember this. Okay, how do you explain this? Okay, imagine you're creating an instance of a class. Okay, I have a class called book here, right? If I create an object of book, if I create an object, which means an instance of this book, what are the values which I will get? Book ID, book name, author, book year. 4 individual fields I'll get. If I combine them, they become one row, isn't it? In database, let's say that table name is TBL books. Inside that they have 4 columns: book ID, book underscore name, book underscore author, book underscore year. Okay, if I take one record from the database, it will be equal to one instance if I create of this particular object. That's all. Okay, this is the idea which I wanted to remember, because anymore, not in ADO.NET. In ADO.NET, even if you don't know that, it's not a problem. But the following two things, link and entity framework demands you to understand this. Without that, you cannot go to that idea. The next section is what we are going to discuss. Okay, so please remember that. And these two. So when I pass an object of book class, okay, please note I can use two ways to describe this. I can just say object of book class or an instance of a book class. Both are same, right? Instance of a class or an object of a class. Okay, so I'm passing that, and what does this object or this instance hold? It holds everything what you require. B dot book name, book author, book year. In Java, I would have written dot get book year, dot get book author. Here, there is no get and set word, but where you write will change its meaning. I hope you follow. If you write it on the left hand side or on the right hand side, I'll give you an example while we do that. Okay, so remember that, and this is what we are done with update also. But imagine if I'm not using the POCO or this kind of an idea, how I would have written this method. This method. How would I have written this method? I'll have to pass 4 columns. Int ID, book ID, string book name, string author, string or int year. That stops there. But imagine if I have a registration form which has like 30-40 fields. How will I write this? It will go like a huge method. But now that book can be added with more data in book class. I need not touch this method. Only thing I need to change here is the query, not the one which I am passing. The passing will still be book object only. An object of a book can hold n number of records. But if I am not following this idea, I will have to sit and pass n number of records. I hope you follow. That's why I prefer this way of writing. And the code also looks more simpler, because all database related queries here. If at all database related SQL exception happens, you come to one file. But there you do not know where, because SQL as well as ASP will be in the same place. Here I have divided them. Right now I have everything in one page. If I have any problem, I will fix here. By the way, what I have written is also still wrong with respect to standard, because I have not put try catch. The reason why I am not putting try catch in any of my programs so far is because I want to see what Visual Studio is giving me an exception. If I put try catch, it will give you one line of exception. It's difficult to debug with that one line. But in Visual Studio, that's why I normally tell put try catch only when your program is successful. Just before deployment, before you are going to test, then you use try catch. Why? Because if I make a mistake now, Visual Studio will stop executing, come back and show you this is the line of problem. And if you open that, it will show you the stack trace, the place exactly where that error is happening, and before that what happened, after that what will happen, everything will be displayed in that exception. I think you have seen in the last few classes. When there is an exception, it stops, it comes back to Visual Studio, and then it shows you where the problem arises. And how to fix also, sometimes you'll get it there. Okay, but that is not possible if you put try catch. If you put try catch, program will not stop. It will just put a message saying that this is the exception. Sit and solve. Alright, so for that, I have not put any try catch so far. Alright, but when you are doing a project, don't put try catch, continue working just before submitting or before you are giving it to somebody to show, because when you are submitting it to somebody else or when you are showing it to somebody else, you should not get that error. You should not go back to Visual Studio. It should show you whatever problem is there in that page itself, so that the person does not think the project is not running. Okay, I hope you follow. Alright, so with that, let me move on. And the last class, what I did was, by the way, this one I have written purposely because when I am working with my laptop, only one connection object is getting opened up. This is a common mistake of all web developers. I hope you follow. Okay, when we are working with our laptop, one connection opening or 100 connection opening will not make a big difference to you, because you have only one laptop, only one client. Maximum you will use 2 tabs, and from one tab another tab you will be accessing. At the same time, you will not be accessing 100 or 1000 in this laptop. But when you deploy, the scenario changes entirely. When you deploy, at the same time, n number of people will be accessing. At that time, opening the connection and not closing it is resource intensive. You got the word I said? It's resource intensive. What do you mean by that? Just imagine that everybody who comes and uses your laptop or your server opens one tab and keeps and goes. You cannot close others' tabs. Just think like that. Your laptop is there, some people come and access and they are opening one tab in your or Chrome tab, something like that. Imagine that everybody who's using your laptop is opening one Chrome tab and going. which you cannot close. What will your system, how will your system respond? You follow what I'm saying? Okay, if n number of browser windows are open in your laptop, which has 4 GB or 8 GB RAM, still it will be slow because the number of tabs opened are more. Not even being used, it's just open. So what would you do to increase the speed? You will close the remaining tabs. And you cannot close it, you cannot close somebody else's connection. System itself should close it. So this is a practice of closing your connection once your work is done. Okay, systematically system will not close because we cannot write destructor here. I hope you know. Constructor you can write, destructor you cannot write. Okay, so when it comes in this case, it's better to write con.close or close, just call this method. What code I've written inside that, whatever is open globally, close that connection. Because that particular person is accessing it. And once another person comes, another object will be created. Do you follow? Okay, so the same logic what we had followed in Python, guys. In Python, if you remember, when you create a new object, every object is given a unique ID. Do you know that method? ID of object. Okay, so if you give the ID here, every time a new user comes and name is con. If you create it, your ID will be 123. My ID will not be 123. My name will still be con. But your ID what is created, the object ID what got created will not be 123. You get it what I'm saying? Name will be same. The object ID which is created will be different for every one of us who is accessing that particular object. Clear? Alright, so let's move on. In the last class, I think I did only one, display.aspx. So in that one, I had put a, a grid view. Okay, and in the code, all I've written is 3 lines of code. I guess it's clear. 1, create an object of books DAO. That line is clear, right? Okay, what happens here? Just imagine what happens here. As soon as you create an object of DAO, what will happen in this block? This code will be called. Sorry. This code will be called. Right? What happens at that line? Connection is ready, it's been established, and it is open in this one line of code. Next line of code, I'm calling the grid view which is there in this page and saying the source of data for that particular grid view comes from where? This object dot get all books. So let me go back to that method. This object has been already created and I said get all books. What will this method return? Data set. The set of data which is returned by this query, select star from TBL books. That has been returned and that I will attach it to DAO. Alright, so it has been attached to the grid view. And this code, what you see below that, if you comment that out and then run the program, there will not be any error. Okay, there won't be any error. The program will run, but you will not see the output. Okay, I wanted to just picturize what happens. This code, what I see here, gets executed on the server. That much is clear. This is not client-side code. This is server-side code. Whatever you write in C# is pure server-side. It will never get executed on the client side. That much is clear, right? So when we move on, when I write this code and I say this is the data source, and the source has been there, but it's not been bound. You follow what I'm saying? It's like I put a helmet, but I did not put the strap. Okay, which means after some time in the breeze, it goes off. Something like that. Okay, so here the data bind is a method which actually binds the data source, what you have given, into the grid view and then keeps it there. So the moment it gets translated and comes back to the browser as table data. This is grid view in ASP.NET, but in browser, there is no such thing as grid view. It will be converted into a table. So when it is coming back to a table TRTD, that data has to be mapped, what you got from the server. That is done by that one method called data bind. Never forget this. If it is a collection of data, single data, you need not do that. Here it is a collection of data, data bind. Same code I've used it in dropdown, if you remember. Dropdown, the update part. Okay, for that again we use the same thing. How should I change that? There also data bind is required because it's not one record which you are retrieving, it's multiple. Okay, but when you choose the dropdown and you retrieve the data from the database and put it in the text boxes, I did not do data bind. If you notice that. Okay, why I'm not doing data bind? Because it's only one record, not collection of records. Okay, I think this is clear. Alright, so this we ran and we got the output. But now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to show you the output and let's find a design flaw in that and then we'll fix that also. Okay, so when I run this program right now, I have not written code of which column is what. I just said select star from table name. Whatever data you get, put it in the grid view. That's all I have done. So when the output comes, you see the system automatically takes into consideration the column names. Okay, the column names are automatically generated. I did not give the column name. If I'm doing that in PHP or JSP, I would have it in a different fashion. Give me a minute. Okay. When we run it again, while the program is running or when you see the output, just imagine how we did it in JSP or servlet, okay, or how we have done it in PHP, how we have done this retrieval. Okay, just think table, we'll write table code. Inside the table, we'll have the TRTH, table header. We will write the name. Okay, just go and revise that code. We will write the name TRTH. We will write book ID, book name. We will not put underscore and all. We will write in something which the end user will understand, not the developer. But if you see here, it is a little bit different. The column names, what are the column names here? Book underscore ID, book underscore name, book underscore author, book underscore year, which is not how I will show it to the user. For the user, I will show it as ISBN or probably book ID, no underscore. Here I will say name of the title of the book. I want to put the word title of the book, not book underscore name. And there, author or author names. Okay, last one, published year. I want to put that word. This is something which the end user will understand. As a developer, you understand book underscore means what. But this is not the way to show, right? So we'll have to change it. So how do I change it? That let me do it in grid view itself. Let's go to the grid view properties. Okay, I want you to find a property called columns. I hope it is clear. Columns. There is a property called columns. Let me just choose that. You'll get collection. Let's choose that. Okay, and I'm going to add something called bound field. Okay, it's not difficult. No coding involved. You just need to say how many fields are there. Earlier it was auto generated. Can you see this? It says auto generate. When you auto generate, name of the column will come exactly as table name or the title header name, header of the table. I hope you follow. All right, that is automatically coming. But if I am giving, I don't want that book underscore ID, book underscore name. I don't want like that. I want it to be a little bit more understandable for anybody who reads it. Okay, so let's do that. Let me remove this auto generate and I'm going to give it manually. How? Let me just choose bound field and click on add. Okay, please remember to remove this auto generate. Otherwise, that also will be there. This also will be there. It will look awkward. So let's just use our own way, bound field. Now, let me just go and find two columns only here. One, what is the text you want to show? Okay, what is the text you would like to show? I am going to say book ID. No underscore, nothing. It's a neat way of showing what I want to show as the header. First column, book ID. Now, you have told book ID, but which column in the database is this book ID? That also I have to say. For that, I need to find something called data field. Two columns, two properties I wanted to remember. Header text, data field. What is the text you want me to show? What is the field which is going to be mapped? Okay, here I know book underscore ID. This is the technical word, which means my database has this column name and I am displaying it to you in this fashion. That's all. Okay, that's one done. Let's add another one. Now I guess you get the flow, right? What's the next one? I want to show the title of the book. Okay, so what I'm going to do is data field is very simple. I'm going to say book underscore name. This is the database column name. But what I want to show to the user is title of the book. Do you follow? Okay, this is done. Let's go to the next one. Third one, again I'm going to do the same thing. Data field is book underscore author. Header text, I'm going to say author name or names. I can give however I want, right? So that is done. Next one. I think that is book underscore year. All right, but the header text I'm going to say published year. Has nothing to do with database. This has everything to do with the database. I hope this is clear. All right, let me just click on OK. Just quickly let me check whether it's right. ID, name, author, year. Yes, done. Now you can see how the table is structured here in the design itself. First one is book space ID, what I type. Second one is title of the book. Third one is author name or names. Last one is published year. Now let me run and see whether it is mapping to how I expected it to be. Done? Okay, without writing much code. This coding was very minimal here, but we got what we required. Okay, now imagine if I wanted pagination. You know what's pagination? Right now I have only one record. Probably I'll insert 3 or 4 records now, but in real world it is not going to be like that. It's going to be thousands and thousands of books. Okay, in that case, will all that 10,000 book be displayed here in one page? No, it's not recommended. Why? Because if you are going to look for only 1 or 2 books, I'm going to load all the 10,000 books and display it to you here, which is not required. Okay, in PHP, JSP, what we were doing, I think, did I do that in the class? Data table, we have done, yes. Okay, so that data table plugin we use, and we use the JavaScript to do that. Okay, and if you are using data table, what happens is first it retrieves all the record, but it displays it only 10 or 20 or 25 pages how you require. Follow, but that is not required in .NET. By default, grid view itself gives you pagination, grid view itself gives sorting, it gives searching, but you will have to write a little bit more code for that. Okay, that I'll do in another class. Right now I'm not going to touch that part. Okay, but you should see what are the other properties which your grid view has. Let me just open properties. Okay, you can see, let me just show you, there are auto generate edit button, auto generate delete button. You remember that edit and delete right next to every column, that is possible here. Okay, I'm not giving right now because I've written code separately only to fill the grid view, not to manipulate the grid view. That I'll write in another class. Okay, but this much you should know. And also you have an option of enabling sorting and paging, sorting the records, okay, as well as enabling pagination. Okay, all those things are by default available here in your grid view itself. Okay, page size 10 by default. All these things are available. You need not go outside, but please note all these things are automatically done or translated into JavaScript when it is required. It's not completely C#, but it's a very, very powerful tool in one shot itself. All right, so let's move on. Let me go to the next one. Let me just add a new record. Okay. So far I've only retrieved record and displayed it here. The next page I'm going to create is to add a new record. So let me just right click and add a new web form with master page. Okay, I'm going to name it as insert, and let's create the form quickly. Okay, so now let me go to the design itself, one code, and let me create a simple table. I'll take HTML table, and inside that let me start. First one, I'm going to ask the user, please note ID is auto generated. So I just need 3 records from the user. One is the name, second one is the author name, third one is year of publishing. Okay, so I'm going to say enter title of the book. Okay, don't worry about the design. When you run it, it will come properly. Here, because of the CSS, it's not coming as you require. If you want to fix that issue, just add one more control on the top, like it label or something on the top, so that that issue will not be there. Okay, enter author name. Next one is enter year of publishing. Okay, now next one is I'm going to put 3 text boxes. All right, so first one is, please don't drop a text box from HTML. Okay, if there is a text box in HTML also, input type equal to text. Do not use this. If you use this, it will be a different way, because you cannot manipulate it in C# just by double clicking on a button. Then you will have to write C# code inside that ASPX file by putting get or post or whatever it is. That's too complicated. That's not required here in .NET. Okay, in .NET it's very simple if you use this text box which they are giving. Okay, so let's put text box 1, and the second one is also a text box. The third one, you can put a drop down of the year, or you can also put a text box. It's your wish. So let me right now put only text boxes. And the last one is a button. So let me just put a simple button there. Again, that button also do not use HTML control. Okay, HTML do not have any connection directly to C#. Otherwise, you will have to write, which is a lengthy procedure. Don't want that. We'll use the inbuilt mechanism to make it simple. So now I'm going to choose all these three controls and change its property. CSS class, let me change it as form-control. The last one is button. CSS class btn-success. That's enough. Now let me change the important properties here. First one is this text box is going to hold txt b name. The next one is txt a name. I'll just put or you can author also. Next one is txt year. Okay, so I've got all the three records. The last one is the button. So let me just change the ID of the button, btn insert or add, whatever you want to give it. Title or the text of that, let me change it as add book. Done. Okay, so it's easy to generate a form in .NET. As you see, it's not that difficult at all. And also the right side, I've kept a column blank. If you notice, in every class I'm doing it blank. I can remove it, but I'm not removing it because I want you to put validations on your own. What validation would I require here? Required field validated more than enough. Another one is number. It should be a 4-digit number between this number and that number. That also you can give. Okay, validations as you feel. It's not going to be requiring coding, right? Just drag and drop, change the properties. Alright, so that is done. So now let's go into the code part of it. Okay, I'll double click on this button. When will I come to this button? Only when you finish the design. And once the user has entered all the data in the text boxes appropriately, I'll go to the code part. In the code part, what am I supposed to do? Okay, please note again, I am not going to write any SQL code here. I've already written that code somewhere. All I need to do is to insert a new row in the table, correct? That's an insert operation what I'm trying to do. If I need to insert one row into the table, what am I supposed to do in programming? I have to create one instance of that class. I hope you follow. I need to create one instance of the class. What class? The book class. If I create an instance of book class, okay, and assign values appropriately, basically what I'm doing is I'm creating one row. Okay, but right now, what is the value of book? Book has been instantiated and all the values inside that object called B is right now blank. Right now they don't have any value. Okay, because I just created a new instance. All have been by default value. What is the by default value? Int means it will be 0. String means it will be null. Following what I'm saying? Why? Because string is a reference type. All reference type by default value is null. If I am not giving a value, by default it will be null. Number 0. Because I have given only integers here, it will be 0. Now, what I need to do, I need not create an ID, by the way. ID is auto generated, but remaining 3 I require. What are the 3? B dot. You can see all the 4 things are coming forward. Whatever I created is coming now. ID, name, author name, year of publishing. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to say book name is equal to, where will I get it from? In the design I have it. Let me call it from txt book name dot text. Now please note, in the code what I wrote, I said it was same thing I used, b dot book name. If you see here, let me just show it once. In insert add book, b dot book name. In Java, here I would have written b dot get book name, and here I would have written it as b dot set book name. Here you don't have that word. It is as simple as where you put that equal to. Okay, if I just call b dot book name, it is trying to print it. Here, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to assign, because it's on the left hand side. Okay, I'm going to take the value from the text box and assign it on b dot book name, which means I'm using it as a setter now. I'm not getting the value, rather I am setting the value. That's it. Let's move on. Let's finish the other part. Okay, second one is book author is equal to txt a name dot text. Last one is b dot book year. Now it will be a small trouble. Please note, what does book year expect from me? An int. Okay, so I'm going to say b dot book year is equal to txt year dot text. Okay, that will throw an error. The reason is you are trying to assign a text onto a int value. Okay, so what should I do? Just put int dot parse. Whatever you are entering in the text box, parse it into a number, put it here. Okay, I can guarantee this will work if you put validation control. Alright, but right now I cannot guarantee. There might be an exception happening if you gave a number. I mean, if you gave something else apart from a number. Is that fine? Okay. So far what have I done? I have created an instance of the book class with values what the user has given, and I have put them here appropriately. What's my next step? Create a new object. Okay, so I've already done that. Next step is to just add this particular object. Okay, so how do I call that method? Data access object. Just call books DAO. Let me name it as DAO is equal to new books DAO. By this time I've opened the connection. Okay, please note in display I have not closed the connection. Okay, it's always recommended that you just call that DAO and close the connection. Done. Okay, this is the standard. Does it mean that if I don't write this line it will be an error? No, it will not be an error. Okay, it will not be affecting you much unless multiple people are accessing your table at the same time. That time this will be an issue. But we will not see it evidently because unless our program is so sensitive, we won't have this issue. Okay, but it is always recommended that you follow a standard. Now, in case you are writing try catch, I'd recommend you use to put finally also. Do not just stop with try catch, put try catch finally and write this code always in finally block. Why? It doesn't matter whether the code is executing properly or not, finally close the connection. Okay, whether the program executes properly or not, close the connection, that's all. That's why we put this in finally block. But right now I'm writing it as it is. When you finish the project, make sure that this block, the one which I've highlighted, comes inside the finally block of the try catch. Okay, now let's go on. I've created an object. All I need to do is to make sure that from this object I need to call that insert method which I've created here. Add book. What I need to pass to that is an object of that book instance which you have instantiated. And what will it return? True or false. So it's very simple as writing an if-else condition. Okay, let me write that condition here. I just need to write if DAO, the object, dot add book, the method which I just created. Please note what is the return type? Boolean. Okay, so I need not say equal to true. I need not check anything. I can just call this, and if at all this add book, within brackets, what am I supposed to pass? An object of a book which has been filled with data. I have that here. That object name is also B. I've just passed that object and my if condition is done. What does this mean? If the data access object calling this particular method add book with this object of book which I have passed, okay, if this works and if this returns true, what does it mean? Inserted successfully. You can put a message saying inserted successfully or put an alert message or take them to the next page. That is up to you. Okay, otherwise you can put an else condition and say what went wrong, or probably you can put it inside a try catch so that this is entirely not required. If at all the problem happens, it will be going there or it will be showing that particular exception message. Okay, so that is if. Right now let me just take him to the display page. Let me say response.redirect display.aspx. Else show an error. That I leave it up to you. Okay, what's the last line? Close the connection. Because my work is done here, I can close the connection. Finished. Okay, so let's try. Let's insert. And the next code what I'm going to write is update. It will look exactly the same. I guess you guys can try. Do you have this program with you now? You have not done. Okay. Fine, let me just check this. Let me add a new book. Okay, C sharp, author name 2015. Let me just add that book. It went properly because if condition exists successfully, it took me to display.aspx, in which it's printed. What I just added has been printed. It's been added to the database, and this code actually I've already written. It's been just called once again. I hope you follow. Okay. Please do not get the idea that it's working so fast here, it will work there also, it will be working fast. No, this is localhost. All websites on localhost will work as fast as possible because your system is the client, your system is the server. But do not think that is how it will be in other systems and other browsers. Okay, it's always better to test in different browsers and test in an actual server before you deploy it to the real world. Is that fine? Okay, with this I'll stop for today.